let me ask you a question. What if our entire idea of how science works is just plain wrong?
We all have this picture in our heads of what science is. It's like this magnificent cathedral of knowledge, right? Every new discovery is another perfectly cut stone, laid carefully on top of the last one, building higher and higher towards some ultimate absolute truth.
It's a really nice thought, isn't it? Super comforting. But what if it's just a story we tell ourselves? A complete illusion?
Well, this absolute bombshell of an idea comes from a guy named Thomas Kuhn. He was a historian and philosopher who looked at the actual history of science. And what he saw wasn't some nice, neat, steady march. Oh no. What he saw was a series of chaotic, violent, world-shattering revolutions. And this right here is the core of it. On one hand, you've got that classic view, linear growth. We just keep adding more facts to the pile, refining our theories. But on the other hand, you've got Kuhn's radical idea of the paradigm shift, where entire worldviews get torn down and completely rebuilt from the ground up. Okay, so to really get what Kuhn's talking about, you have to understand his most important concept, the paradigm. The easiest way to think about a paradigm is like the operating system for a scientific field. It's the invisible background code that dictates the rules of the game, what questions are worth asking, what methods you can use, and even what counts as a good answer. Now, day to day, most scientists are doing what Kuhn called normal science. They're basically expert puzzle solvers. The paradigm gives them the jigsaw puzzle box. It shows them the picture on the cover, and it gives them the rules. Their job isn't to question the picture on the box, it's just to make the pieces fit.
But then, things start to get weird. Anomalies start popping up. Think of them like glitches in the Matrix. An observation or an experimental result that, according to the current rules, just shouldn't be possible. At first, everyone dismisses them. Oh, it's a measurement error or the equipment must be faulty. But then they keep showing up again and again until you can't ignore them anymore.
And this is where the real action happens. When those cracks in the foundation get too big, when those glitches become undeniable, that's when a scientific community hits a crisis point. They start to realize, wait a minute, maybe the problem isn't with this one little puzzle piece. Maybe the entire picture on the box is wrong.
So Kuhn breaks this whole process down into 4 pretty clear stages. You start with normal science, everybody's happy, solving puzzles. Then anomalies emerge, stuff that just doesn't fit. This leads to a crisis, where faith in the old system just collapses. And then finally, out of all that chaos, you get a revolution. A brand new paradigm is born, with a totally new set of rules.
And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophy. This is the real story of science. Think about the elegant clockwork universe of Isaac Newton. It wasn't just tweaked by Einstein's relativity. It was completely overthrown. The predictable world of classical physics didn't just evolve into quantum mechanics. It was replaced by a bizarre new reality of uncertainty and probability. These weren't software updates. They were complete reinstallations of science's operating system. Kuhn himself put it perfectly. He said, the shift is not a smooth improvement, but a conceptual rupture. It's not about taking one more step up a ladder. It's about realizing your ladder has been leaning against the wrong wall the entire time, and you have to jump to a whole new one.
Now, this is where things get really mind-bending, because according to Kuhn, a new paradigm doesn't just give you a new theory, it gives you a whole new world to see. Kuhn used a tricky word for this, incommensurability. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually simple. Imagine trying to explain the rules of chess to someone who only knows checkers. I mean, sure, they're both played on the same board, but the pieces, the goals, the entire way of thinking is completely different. You can't say chess is objectively better using some neutral rulebook because they're just different games. That's incommensurability. After a paradigm shift, scientists are basically playing a new game. They're asking different questions and looking at the very same data through completely different eyes. I mean, take a swinging pendulum. A scientist in an older paradigm might see an object trying to get to its natural place of rest. A scientist after Newton sees a beautiful interplay of invisible forces like gravity and momentum. They are looking at the exact same swinging rock, but they are seeing 2 totally different realities. So if you followed this logic, the conclusion is kind of staggering. If paradigms are like different games with different rules, then science isn't this straight line march from wrong to right. It's more like a series of leaps from one self-contained worldview to another. Okay, I can practically hear you thinking right now, this is all fascinating, but what about my smartphone? What about GPS satellites and life-saving vaccines?
If science isn't getting truer, why does it work so ridiculously well?
That's the million-dollar question, right? The common sense view is our technology works because our theories are true. They must be an accurate map of reality. But Kuhn just flips that script. He argues our technology works because our theories are incredibly effective tools. And that distinction between truth and a tool is everything.
So a new paradigm wins the day, not because it's proven to be truer in some ultimate cosmic sense, but simply because it's a better tool for the job. It solves more puzzles. It answers questions that the old paradigm couldn't touch. Einstein's theories took over not because they were somehow more real than Newton's, but because they could solve problems, like the weird orbit of Mercury that had the old guard completely stumped.
So what does this all mean? Should we just throw up our hands and not trust science? No, absolutely not. Science is unbelievably powerful, probably the most powerful tool we've ever invented for understanding the world. But what Kuhn teaches us is that it's not some cold, sterile, robotic process. It's a deeply human thing, messy, creative, and driven by crisis and revolution.
And all of this leaves us with one last, really big, and maybe even unsettling question to think about. If the grand story of science isn't a straight line leading us to one final capital T truth, then where exactly is it taking us?